And here's something I've found out, and maybe people won't want to hear this, but when I was in Iraq, I went to Iraq for a while, there are the Christians there are under serious persecution, right? I mean, they're Christians dying, right? They're Christians
Yeah.
dying, and they went from millions of Christians in the Nineveh Plains down to the low hundreds of thousands, right?
Wow.
Just completely destroyed. Um, and the Orthodox and the Catholics, and they're Eastern Catholics there, all worship together. It's very hard to find the distinction
Wow.
there, right? And I remember being shocked by that, but also deeply consoled that when it comes down to it, the Christians there have all decided that it is a real scandal that there are divisions, and
Yeah.
so they if you ask a Muslim, the Muslims in Iraq will tell you, oh, all those Christians are all the same. And so
Mm.
for us, it's like, oh, we might know that there are real divisions there, but we don't act like it. And
Mm.
that was I found that to be a very consoling thing. And I'm sure there are
Yeah.
theological problems with this, but it was very consoling. I saw this in Ireland as well, and I
Really?
bristled a little bit in Northern
Wow.
Ireland, that there are Anglicans and Catholics worshiping together in a way that I did not think was okay, and yet they've said, look, we have we're in a very dire situation, and we're not going to let the theologians and the sort of leadership in the church that want to really get down to those fine distinctions. We're not going to let them keep us apart as Christians. And they will know that we are Christians by our love, and that means our love for each other at the very least. And again, I'm not saying hey,
Yeah.
let's all just
Yeah.
be the ecumenism's great, no problems with it. No, I recognize all those things, but it
Yeah.
is beautiful to see sometimes when Christians are really and truly persecuted, that drives us together.
Yeah.
I think that's a beautiful thing.
Okay, so what you just said about the persecution bringing Christians together, it's almost like it's a luxury that we can argue about our differences. Um,
Yeah.
I think once you strip away all of the basics, it almost kind of makes me think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like at the base level, you
Mm-hmm.
have Christ, and then as you
Yeah.
ascend, you get into the more minutia of details, which are all equally important. Like psychological health is also as
Right.
important as basic health in the
Right.
bigger scheme
Right.
of things. Just as liturgical elements or the smaller details are just as important as
Right.
your relationship with Christ. But fundamentally, if you strip away all those other elements, the thing that unites each Christian, the
Yeah.
base of our hierarchy of needs is Christ. I think that's
Yeah.
one maybe a way of thinking about it.
Right. I think you're right. I think maybe I don't know if I'd even go so far as to say that those things are just as important. I would say they're just as true, but not
Yeah.
necessarily as important. So the way I often think about it is this: if I pulled out a set of car keys and I tossed them to you, and you were to catch those car keys, right? You're not doing the physics. You're definitely not doing particle physics.
Yeah.
You're definitely not drilling down to that level. You're just dealing with what's in front of you. And so I sort of I believe that my hope is in that, in the same way that persecution in the Middle East of Christians in the Middle East, my same sense is that, or my hope is that Orthodox and Catholics recognize the way in which we are being persecuted by the culture. Right?
Mhm.
There's a culture which is embracing meaninglessness as a virtue.
Yeah.
It's embracing a sort of, it's really a very poor version of French existentialism, and it's a real crisis,
Yeah.
and souls are being lost. Right? Souls are being lost. And so my hope is that every Catholic, and I hope that Catholics, I hope there's a real unity amongst Catholics in the same way, that we recognize that we really are being persecuted in a very sneaky way. The devil is sneaky,
Mm.
and we are being persecuted in the very same way, and souls are at stake, and we need to all recognize that and get along.
Yeah. Well said.